Good morning everybody. This is our first assembly back and we're doing a filmed assembly, as you can see. Over the holidays I hope some of you managed to do some reading. I certainly did some reading, not just because I'm an English teacher but because I really enjoy books. And I read an incredible book called The Sun Does Shine. I'm going to see if I can get a copy put in the library. It was by a man called Anthony Hinton. And it's a book of real hope despite the terrible circumstances he found himself in. Anthony Hinton was not much older than you. He was in his early 20s. He left school, he was hardworking, he never got himself into trouble, he got himself a job. He lived with his mum, he went out and socialised like you would do, got himself a girlfriend. Life was good and he was happy. One day, whilst thinking about where he was going to take his girlfriend in the evening, making plans like many of you would make plans for, he suddenly saw the police arrive at his house. They got out and they arrested him on charges of murder that he had not committed. Murder that took place many kilometres away from where he was at work when he had signed in to work at the time. Completely and totally unjust. His life changed in one instant. From nothing that he had done, his whole future and all of his plans were brought to a complete and utter standstill. Things went from bad to worse when he was then sentenced to death for this crime that he hadn't committed. And apparently in the USA that's not uncommon. Every 10 people on death row, one of them has been later proved to be innocent and released. Can you imagine? Out of every 10 people, one of them is put on death row for something they didn't do. He was wrongly imprisoned not just for 1 year or 2 years while they sorted out their facts and they looked at the information. He was put in prison for 30 years. That means that he came out in his 50s. He had missed getting married, he'd missed having children, he'd missed even being with his mother when she passed away. How would you have coped if this had been you? I found it hard enough being stuck at home this last term, even though I was surrounded by my family and I was in contact with my friends. I could go out into the garden and I could walk on the school compound. But I found it difficult not being in control of what happens tomorrow and when the school and things may open. I found it difficult not being able to plan, but yet I still had so much. Strangely enough, I didn't focus on the things I had. Now imagine your friends, your phone, your family, your internet, your sunshine, and your studies, and everything that you enjoy were taken away from you, and you were put into a small cell on your own for something that you hadn't done, with nothing to do, day after day after day. Not just one day, not just 2 days, but for 30 years. I am sure if that had been you or if that had been me, we would not be able to write a book with the title The Sun Does Shine. As a title of hope. Of course, at first, in the first few years actually, Anthony Hinton was really angry. He was terribly angry at the injustice of it all. He didn't actually speak to anyone. He wouldn't speak to a prison guard. He wouldn't speak to his cellmates. He wouldn't speak to anyone. He was boiling with resentment and anger, and I completely understand that. Until one night in his cell, he heard a man crying in the next cell. And after a while, the pain was so raw and so much he couldn't ignore it. And he started to talk and asked him what was the matter. And it was at this moment when he realised that he could still reach out to somebody and make a difference that began to change the way he looked at his situation. That in spite of how much had been taken from him, he still had control of his life and he was going to live it. Ray Hinton explains his feelings at the time in the book. He said, "I am not worried about the death chair. You can sentence me to it, but you can't take my life. It doesn't belong to you. My soul, you can't touch it." I just found that an incredible statement. This is from a man in prison who seemed to have nothing but would not allow the injustice and the cruelty that he faced to poison him and poison who he was. Somehow, like Mandela before him, he had found some sort of freedom within his cell. Freedom to make the choice between loving or hating. Freedom to make the choice of whether he threw away each day or he did something positive with it in spite of all the limitations. He found, over the 30 years that he was imprisoned, that he could forgive, that he could show compassion, that he could make things better for others on death row, even if it was only through his voice. It's an incredible, incredible story. Archbishop Desmond Tutu says this is an amazing and heartwarming story which restores our faith in the inherent goodness of humanity. He wasn't given a fair legal representation, which is why he got into prison in the first place, until a new black lawyer who had grown up in a poor neighbourhood came to represent him for free because he couldn't afford to pay for representation. His name was Bryan Stevenson, and some of you may have seen a recent film about him. It's called Just Mercy. Bryan Stevenson was one of the very, very few black people from poor neighbourhoods in America who has been selected to go to Harvard. And he could have made an absolute fortune in the legal industry, but he chose to come back to help his own people. The people from his poor neighbourhoods, the people with no voice and no real legal representation to fight for justice. And again, he did that for 30 years. And he managed to gain 140 releases from death row in that time, making a huge difference to many lives. The whole of that story, whether it's Bryan Stevenson or whether it's Anthony Hinton, just makes me wonder, what sort of legacy are we going to leave? What difference are we going to make? And I don't want us just thinking about what difference we're going to make later on in our lives. What difference can we make to somebody's life today? What comforting, compassionate thing can we say to somebody? What can we give? It might be a time, it might be a smile, it might be doing some community service, but what are we going to do? I think we really need to, even though we're young, we can still make a difference. Anthony Hinton was being able to make a difference even though he was in a cell with nothing. We have more than that. We can also make a difference to the people who are around and about us. Do we say positive things to people? Do we say negative things to people? Do we gossip? Do we bring people down, or do we build them up? Ray Hinton's book showed me I need to change my mindset. I need to focus on the positive, and I need to focus on the good. I need to focus on what I have today. I don't need to think about what I don't have. I need to stop being angry. I need to start being more compassionate. I need to think about others around me. And in doing so, I hope I can also realise the sun does shine even on a bad day. In the film, Bryan Stevenson talks about the danger of hopelessness. He says if we lose hope, we will give up. However difficult our circumstances, we need to find hope within them. At the start of this new year, I hope that we all commit ourselves to making a positive difference to the world in our own way. We need to stand up for injustices we see around us. We need to challenge them. We need to think of others. We should never accept the unacceptable. We need to leave our school prepared to stand up for what is right, not just for us, but also for our communities. So hopefully in the last bit of your form time this morning, in your planners, I would like all of you to think of one thing, one small change that you can make that will make a difference to the world around us, a positive difference. Thank you.
Hi everyone, hope you've been staying safe in these hard times of the coronavirus. We've had a very exciting year, and our students have continually showed resilience in the fields, and we've seen exceptional performance in all areas: football, basketball, athletics, rounders, swimming, and even netball. It's never easy to pick our sportsmen and sportswomen of the year, but with a lot of deliberation, and this year We have had a great performer in the Key Stage 3, and the Key Stage 3 Sportswoman of the Year 2020 goes to Cornelia Bulengo. Well done, Cornelia. You will come and receive your trophy. And the Key Stage 3 Boys Sportsman of the Year goes to an exemplary performer, Yuri Lems. Well done. You deserve this, and you will come for this trophy. For the Key Stage 4, it was even harder, but we came to a resolution to award Renny Stella Wankia. She performed really well in basketball, football, athletics, and an all-round performer. So well done, Renny Stella. Key Stage 4 Boys, a great athlete, an all-round performer, great swimmer, great basketballer, great footballer, great athlete. Name it, he is always there. This is the hard work of none other than Alike there. Well done, Alike. In the Key Stage 5 boys and girls, we had two great athletes, and the Key Stage 5 athlete of the year is Junior Tuheri, who wins the second time Sportsman of the Year, and the Key Stage 5 girl or Sportswoman of the Year is Robin Ailing. Congratulations to all of you. You have done really well, and we hope you will continue with the sporting spirit in the coming year. Well done, thank you, and stay safe.
Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, the time has come. We are looking for actors, singers, dancers, jugglers, acrobaticas, if that's even a word. If you want to be involved, then there will be a sign-up list outside the drama room on the production notice board from next week. If you'd like to audition, come and see myself or Miss Morton next week for a... Don't forget, sign up, we need you.